Good morning from a sunshiny tundra of somewhere.
Sunshiny tundra. I mean, I think I know the answer to this, but does it feel brighter? I mean, it's got to, right? If the sun is out and you got snow on the ground.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, for sure. Yeah, I mean, yeah. So I mean, we got nothing to complain about. You get snow and you get sunshine, you get more brightness. I mean, I'm not sure what we're all complaining about, but to me, that sounds like a net win.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the same thing here. Still brisk, still cold, still snowy, because you know what? It's still winter. It's December 4th. It's still 2025. Welcome, everybody. You're listening to the Crushing Iron Podcast. This is about to be episode 894.
Yep. And yeah, brightness, light is life, man. So
we just talked about that. It is. Yeah. So and this isn't the topic. We're going to finish up doing our duty and our service to the people today and finishing up some of the questions that popped in late yesterday, because we know we kind of just slide in to the Facebook DMs a little bit early, and you guys only have like an hour to like pop questions. So we'll get to those today for those late risers and people who are, you know what, doing what they're supposed to do and not being on social media. So we can't penalize them because they aren't on Facebook as much as people that are. So we're going to make sure we answer the people today. But I was thinking about this morning as I was on the trainer, and, you know.
Trainer?
Yeah, I got in 2 hours this morning.
What?
Yeah, I was out of town. I was like, I'm going to get on the bike, and well, it's one of those weird things, right? Like, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people are like this too, but I don't ever look at what time it is when I wake up before I assess how I feel. Because then I feel like just like pace, right? We talk a lot about, like, you get done with the run and you feel incredible, right? And it was so awesome. Then you look at your watch and it was like, you know, maybe a little bit sore in the heart, and you're like, oh, that was a terrible run. And it really messes with your mind. And I think actually like impacts the recovery from your performance because you're more stressed about it. Anyway, I always try to assess like how I feel before, like if I feel rested. And I think anybody who's pretty in touch with like their body can always tell. Like, you open your eyes and you're just like, yeah, I feel pretty. Now there is that like weird dilemma, right, where we wake up at like 12:30 and you're like wide awake. You're like, I feel fucking incredible. Then you look, you're like, oh my God, I got 6 hours of sleep, more to go. And then you wake up 6 hours later and you're more tired. It's a weird thing, right? So anyway, I always kind of assess how I feel when I wake up, because if it's early, but I feel rested and like ready to go, I'll pop up. But the same thing, if I wake up feeling tired, but it says 6, I'm like, well, maybe I'll just go back to sleep even though it's 6. So anyway, I got up at like 4:40. But I woke up and I was like, I feel pretty rested. And then looked at the clock. It was 4:40. And I was like, all right, I was out of town for work. Hayden will get up around 7:30. I feel pretty good today. I was going to do an hour and 10. I was like, I think I might be able to sneak in 2 hours. It wasn't a pre-planned 2 hours. Not like I was like, hey, I'm going to take this Thursday by the horns. It was, you know, I've got this time, you know, and I've got nothing else to do before, you know, 7:30. And I will say, like, I'm trying to do a better job of making sure that I have my coffee and then immediately do something for myself every morning before I like dive into work, which I'm not always great about. And then I just got on the trainer and did like, and I do this a lot. It's like, I only look at heart rate for a lot of my sessions, but I only look at heart rate and I have no idea what time it is. I have no idea how long I've been riding, and then I'll just ride for as long until I kind of get a little, not anxious, but like, you know, my attention's like, all right, I need something different. And then I started doing intervals. Anyway, I got to like 1:55, hour and 55 minutes, and Hayden came downstairs. He was awake. He had some help with his homework. And I was like, I'll knock out 5 more minutes and be done. But yeah, so it wasn't like a pre-planned tour. I felt good physically. I felt rested. I had the opportunity. And I was kind of just in that mode where I just wanted to grind this morning and keep going. And I'm definitely not like that every morning. But yeah, I'd had it. So I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Why not? Roll with it. December rules for me, and knock out 2 hours before the day gets started.
You found the magic. Yeah. I've been thinking.
Yeah, this morning.
Well, that's what I mean. It's like,
I found the magic.
But you said something before that. You do something good for yourself. And, that's one of the things I've been thinking about is, you know, when you do something good for yourself and you know it kind of at the core, you know, you are doing this ride not to get through it but because you believed that it was something that felt right, or, you know, it just internally you had this thing going on where you're like, you know, and I've been kind of calling it in my lately this thing about like I got a 51% rule where you're like 51% on the one side that you know that this is just good for you, you know, rather than you're trying to get through and you don't buy in. You're just like fighting through a workout. Because I just think it's really interesting to try to stay on the side of doing something that you believe in, and instead of like just kind of not, you know, feeling like it might, you know, just fighting all the time to get through something, you know, but it's sort of like you just accepted it and just kind of roll with it. And I mean, we talked about that last time where, you know, you might have an hour. It's like, screw it. Sometimes I just kind of go in easy and kind of feel it. And that is a thing too, right? Where you're looking at your heart rate and you're not sure what time it is. And like, if you were struggling on that ride, it would have probably been like, you'd have looked, it would have been like 13 minutes and you'd have thought it was an hour.
Exactly.
You know,
you're like, are you there yet? And then you're immediately discouraged and you're like, God, I can't do that again. But it is like, and you know, you and I've been coaching for such a long period of time. I know not everyone can do this or feels like the confidence to do it, or it's probably not the confidence to do it, is they are probably too strict. But because I had a session for myself today, like I was going to do 8 by 2 minutes big gear at my threshold number, and I had that in there, and I got on the bike. I was like, yeah, but I got the time, and I'm kind of feeling like a grinder today. So like, let me adapt. And so I did. Like I hit the lap. So when I started doing my intervals, I flipped from current heart rate and average heart rate over to my next screen, which is all it says is current heart rate, average heart rate, lap power. I don't look at anything else, not time. And I was like, I'm just going to grind it out and look and hit the lap button. And I was like, all right, so for 70.3 in Dallas, you know, maybe I want to shoot for holding like 220, which is my old 70.3 number, which probably won't happen in March. But I was like, let me just see how it feels today. But my goal was to not let my heart rate get above like my tempo to get to threshold, because I didn't want to like wear myself out. So I kind of made myself a bet. I was like, all right, I'm just gonna, my ceiling for my kind of my tempo heart rate is 153. And I was like, I'm just going to ride around 146 to 152 until I get close to 153, and then I'm going to lap it. So I'm never going to get there, just to kind of see like how things go. And anyway, so I went 8 minutes, 12 minutes, 12 minutes, 16 minutes, and then wrapped it up with a cool down. I mean, it wasn't exciting. I mean, I just grinded it out and stared at my watch and listened to music. And then would like occasionally peek to see how much longer I had in the lap, but I just felt it out. And like we've talked before about, you know, in the intuitive eating, where you just kind of trust your body's internal cues for hunger and fullness rather than going by like a strict schedule, which again, I think people would do better off of like, oh, it's time for lunch and you're not even hungry. I think that oftentimes like leads to like overeating, or I've got to have it then, or I've got to have this much. And you're like, but do you? Like, you know, your body's pretty good at telling you if you listen. But a lot of times we can't even listen to it because we're already so full. We have so much shit in our body that you can't even tell, right? And same thing with training. Like I woke up rested because all I did was swim yesterday. So I knew I was hoping I was going to feel good. And I was like, you know what? I feel good. You know, I was able to make the magic happen, but also like I wanted to seize the moment because, as with everybody else, you have no idea what tomorrow's going to bring. And so like I could wake up tomorrow and be feeling like trash and have a bad night of sleep. We've got late hockey tonight. And I was like, you know what? I feel good. I better seize this moment. And immediately I got off the bike. I was in a great mood. I'm not always the most patient individual with like homework and stuff with Hayden sometimes, but this morning I was like, cool as a cucumber. Didn't even like look at work. I was like, let's just work our way through this, get you off to school. If I hadn't have, and I had not worked out in general, I would have been kind of a prick, probably like impatient because I haven't done anything for myself. So again, like that's not to say that morning sessions are the end all be all for everybody, because you can start your day like that. Not everyone has that opportunity, but one, doing something for yourself before, whether it's reading, meditating, or I know you like to write, like doing something for yourself, investing in yourself and in your day and in your how positive you're going to be is always, you know, I think a net gain. And then, you know, on the intuitive side of, you know, of training, you know, I think there's a lot more room for that than we always kind of refer back to Cody Beals, you know, in that blog he wrote like 5 or 6 years ago about he never really knew what he was going to do until he was warming up. Mm-hmm. You know, and truth be told, like if I'd have gotten like 20 minutes on the bike and my legs felt like trash, I wouldn't have forced it. I would have just been like, all right, you know, maybe I'll just see if I can do these short intervals today and then bag it at an hour and 10. But I just kept feeling good and kept feeling good. And not only do I feel good, but I was motivated to continue. And we don't always have that. And so I wasn't fighting anything. And we've all been through that, right? As we got rides that are 2 hours, 2 hours, 4 hours. We don't feel like we're fighting anything. We're like embracing it and it just feels right. And we've also had rides that are like 50 minutes to an hour where we feel like we're fighting every minute and every pedal stroke to force ourselves to stay on. And that one, maybe the best idea is to just either spin it out easy in 30 and get off. Because again, like that's where I think like the overtraining and the burnout becomes a choice, is the longer you know, we've all got a long wick over the course of our triathlon, you know, journey or a career, even a year. The more we like set fire to it on the burnout scale, you know, and let it just continue to burn, like the quicker you are to burn out. But if you listen to it and you're like, you know what, not today, you know, drop it in some water and like sit it out and do something different. Like that's how you create a sustainable, you know, training structure. And again, like there's a lot of value in the, you know, training prescription and managing intensity and doing the right things. But yeah, I think, again, it's not overrated, but I think it's underrated to listen to yourself and what your body is craving instead of what's just on, you know, a sheet of paper. And I think we even said, you know, like if you're following, you know, a GPS system and it tells you to go past your house, you know, because it's, you know, off that day, you're not going to go past your house. You're going to pull in the driveway. And it's like, it's a continue forward, turn around. You're like, no, I know this feels right, regardless of what I'm being told. No one's perfect. Coaches aren't perfect. Training plans aren't perfect. Platforms aren't perfect. But the more you listen to your body, the better off I think you'll be in the long run.
Yeah. And you talked about how you know, you called it not exciting, but I think it's kind of is exciting when you can kind of find that group, you know, because those are such key workouts for the sport we actually do. You know, the ability to kind of sit in that pocket and just keep going and build that aerobic base, and it is really cool to kind of hit that. It almost sounds like, you know, things were in alignment, you know, whatever that may be. You know, I think about the psychology of it, but you had everything kind of lined up. You know, your body was in a place and your mind was like right there too, and it was sort of, it sounded, well, you said not exciting, but I bet it was kind of exciting in a way. You're like, damn, I just kind of feel like cruising here. You know, it's this sort of like acceptance of what you have going in the moment. And, you know, I've been back into doing some meditating, and that's what kind of has been striking me lately. Every once in a while, you know, I kind of have like a loose, you know, time frame on it or whatever once in a while, but sometimes I get into a place where it's like very interesting, and I'm looking forward to kind of finding out where it goes. And that's sort of what it sounds like you were doing, is that, you know, I suppose, you know, the key is like, you know, if Hayden hadn't come down for, you know, homework or whatever, if you had just like an open day, I mean, have you ever thought about like, man, I might might do 8 hours right now? Have you ever?
Dude, I was going to go for 3. I swear to God, I was like, I felt so good after those intervals. I was doing the warm down and I was like, man, my legs still feel really good at like the 2 hour mark. And I like yelled up at him. I was like, hey, do you need help with, you know, my homework? And he's like, yeah, I can't figure out, like they're doing like this like long division in a weird ass way. And I'm like, this is why parents don't want to help their kids with homework, because you're like, we didn't learn any of this. But I was like, all right, fine. You know, I'm good. I'll get off. And, you know, but yeah, if he didn't need anything, I was going to keep cruising. I mean, because I just felt like really, 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 really solid. But yeah, I mean, those days are, I mean, again, they're few and far between, but I think the more you have them, you know, the better off you can be. And it's funny because like I just like popped up and looked up, you know, core principles of intuitive eating. And it's like, it's funny if you replace like, you know, eating and anything diet, nutrition based, like along their, you know, principles, how it can fit into training. And like the first one is reject the diet mentality. Stop trying to follow restrictive diets that are often not sustainable, right? That's the same thing with training programs, like trying to be high intensity or only low intensity. You know, it's just way too much, you know, restriction that you end up not embracing anything else. You know, and it says like honor your hunger, recognize and respond to your body's physical hunger cues to prevent extreme hunger. Same goes for like, you know, honoring how your body's feeling. You know, go easy or go hard. and then like challenge challenge the food police, silence the critical internal voice that judges food choices good or bad. We do that with like zones, right? Oh, I can't be in zone 3. It's bad. That's what I did today for 48 minutes. It's like, oh, you can't be in zone 3. You got to be polarized. You got to be a threshold. You got to be a VO2. You got to be aerobic. Zone 3's, only should be like, right before, a race. Like no zone is bad. It's just how much you do it and how often. And then the biggest one, because I won't read the rest of them. Well, there's two. One's respect your body. Easy, right? The other one's honor your health with gentle nutrition, which is the same thing as honoring your body with like a more zone 1, zone 2 work. But the last one is discover the satisfaction factor. Find pleasure in just the experience of what you're doing, and that can lead you to feeling more satisfied in general. And it talks about like how it's shown, like intuitive eating overall is shown to improve and reduce like impression, anxiety, and body dissatisfaction. There's just, we've always talked about this, right? Like, we both use devices, we have devices, or athletes do, we're into the data and we're into the science and stuff, but we've always, from day one have been about, and really because we've been in the sport for so long, you were chrono for such a long time and, still are for a lot of your stuff. I got in the sport with just a chrono and like managing my cadence and power on the, not power, but managing like my cadence and heart rate with like a cat eye bike computer and my indoor trainer. Like, it's a lost art for sure. Just understanding and listening to your body and like listening. I mean, even listening to Solveig, the women's champion, she was like, I just race pretty much by feel. And I'm like, so the best in the world can race by feel, and the rest of us are worried about doing it in just a simple training session. And that's the most important day of their year, and maybe even up to their life at that point. And they're going to do it by feel. But we are so, restrict ourselves to so many things. It's like, God, it's like, there has to be a good balance of doing things. It's like, I know you use a lot of hockey analogies for Hayden, but like he has practice and he has lessons and he has power skating, but we always make sure if there's available time, we take him to open stick and puck so he can just be a kid and like work on his trick shots and do what he wants and like be free and be flexible, not be told what to do by a coach. And he just has so much fun doing that. And I think because he just does what he feels like and what feels good to him, whether it's skating a ton or whether it's doing trick shots. We don't do that enough in training as adults. We all want our kids to do it and listen to ourselves, and we'll tell everybody, listen to your body. But to ourselves, we can be so restrictive in what we do. And I mean, restrictive, just the definition of it, right? It's like, it's nothing you want to feel for a sustained period of time. That's why diets don't work. It's why everyone that joins a gym in January or tries a new diet is pretty much likely going to fail. One, because you're probably starting because you yo-yo up and down because you try to be too much and do too much and restrict too much all at one time. And that alone is just like a huge stress increase and just lowers the likelihood instead of like, yeah, this feels right. Or you know what, that's probably, a little bit too much, or this maybe too, or yeah, I just kind of feel like, indulging today, and that's okay to do that, right? When it might be like a long ride like it is this morning, like it's okay to do that and indulge a little bit, with these maybe longer rides, or even more intensity right now, because again, I think it teaches you more down the road than being so worried you're, I'm drifting into zone 3 today and that's not a good thing, or I was too much. I'm like, yeah, but did it feel good? And do you like it? Yeah, I did. Okay. It should be end of story.
Yeah. There's a, term that people talk about being mindful, and that's all that kept coming to my mind as you were talking. It was this sort of, when you're talking about eating, for example, I mean, I know you've been there, and, when there's a big spread out and you don't necessarily think you should be eating it all or whatever, and then you kind of actually take a break and decide, you know what, I'm actually kind of full. Or vice versa, if you feel like you have, maybe it's your body saying, like today, maybe you're like, that's what your body needed, right? So it's really important to be in touch with that, I think, and really sort of rolling with whatever it is. The Cody Beals thing is just get warmed up, kind of see what's going on, and then, whatever your body needs. And, sometimes I feel really good about being able to kind of just say, all right, I'm hitting the wall here, I'm going to stop, instead of forcing through it all the time. Or like when it is there, it's like, nope. You don't say to yourself, I got to stop now. But, it's like, let's go explore this. I think that one of the things I've always been really intrigued with is the amount of potential we have inside us, like there, to discover in our bodies and our minds and stuff like that. And to be free to kind of actually go there is really compelling, at times. And that's what I think of as mindfulness, is sort of like, instead of just, everything in the world is so outward. You know what I mean? It's like, you got to work hard. You got to push this. You got to do this. And 10 steps to, your hack of building your business. And you start, it's like we get excited about, like, I'm going to go on a diet. I'm going to rip it up. And then like 2 days later, you're just screwed. So there's something really beautiful in the middle of it all, where you can kind of just sort of be in the present with yourself and just kind of mold that day or that moment the way you want to. And that's what it sounds like you did today. And like, I think that happens all the time. We're just not really aware of it. We're not present with what's going on. It's sort of like, some days I'll just be kind of like, mindlessly eating chocolate or something. I'll be like, what am I doing? And then I'll stop and I'll be like, that was the right decision there, because I could have kept going, but I wasn't, obviously you don't want to do that, but sometimes you just do it and you just shut everything off and you just kind of like, I'm not going to respect myself today. I'm just going to try and get a good, pleasant feeling. And it's like you dig so deep for it sometimes, but man, there's just like a lot of intrigue about potential we have inside us that we don't even explore because we're so distracted outwardly. It's like this next new thing. It's like, I love rejecting Instagram ads because they all suck at me, man. Every single one of them is just right up my alley. Mm-hmm. And that's the reason I haven't put my like credit card on there, because I would just be tapping that thing. That thing looks exactly what I've been thinking about. Yeah, of course, because they're reading your email and every comment you say, it's like, this is what you're thinking about, huh? Right now, here's an ad for it. I've never heard of this product, but it looks amazing.
But I need it. Right. Yeah, no, and we can dive into these last few questions, but and this is the time of year, right? Like, we've got December rules and we've got a lot of flexibility and stuff for a lot of athletes. And, we talked a lot recently too about, the multiple main set options that honestly, like, outside of like the one or two that, like, hey, I need like specifics, every single session, I don't like the choice. And a lot of that's just from lack of confidence. It's just like fully embraced. Like, I love this. I love being able to do this. And it's fun to like see people make good choices or see them push themselves harder, because I also think when it's your decision, you're more likely to push harder than not, because you're invested in the buy-in, because it was your choice, right? If you're being coached, someone else is telling you what to do. And yes, like, we're still telling you what to do within like a parameter. It's still your choice. You take ownership of it. And I think there's just a lot of buy-in that can be found in that. And again, like, it's December, you've got time, to, maybe instead of just kind of thinking about how do I rebuild, my swim or be specific on, like certain types of training, it's like, maybe try to rebuild and rewire your, like, where you sit mentally and emotionally around training, and trying to be perfect and trying to analyze every step and every cadence, everything you do. And like embrace embrace the great days and get after it. And also like embrace the days that suck and recognize that and don't do anything, right? Or go for a walk instead. Like, that's the stuff that we should be treating ourselves or teaching ourselves this far away from your biggest race, because this is like, you should feel no pressure, right? And so I think it's a great time to kind of rewire your brain with more freedom and autonomy, to do that. And that's like, I probably counter to what most coaches, hey, you got to do exactly what I say, all the time. And like, I just started working with a newer athlete who's older coach was all about like, telling them to change up their cadence and pick up their cadence. And they would be like, hey, this session was great. It felt good. And they'd be like, hey, next time, pick up your cadence. And I'm like, who gives a shit? Like, if it felt good, it felt good. Why rob a man of feeling a good run and telling him that, this minor detail that honestly for most people is completely irrelevant was a negative. It's like everybody's body is different, and picking up and listening to your body's cues are just so important, because everyone's completely different, and you're completely different every day. which I think is also something that we really underestimate, is just how much different we feel day to day that we still can't predict. You can have an insanely stressful day on a Wednesday and feel like you're going to wake up the next day and just be completely shelled, and wake up the next day feeling like a champion. Or you can have like a restful day with like not much going on and think like the next day you're going to be, awesome, and wake up and you feel like trash. Like it's just so important to do that. But like you said, like when we wake up and the immediate thing we do is distract ourselves, we aren't really sure how we're going to feel. So we don't have a barometer to base things off of, or we can't have that conversation with ourselves. Like, what do I need to change today because I'm feeling this? You wake up super tired, maybe go back to sleep. Or if I'm feeling like lethargic or in a bad mood, like maybe I need to meditate or do something for myself or go for a walk, or how can I flip the script? If you're feeling, super hungry or dehydrated, like, maybe instead of your first 2 cups of coffee, like go pound some water, but we don't. Like, we immediately pick up a device, or we get straight to work, or we go like, we don't give ourselves time to wake up and then have time for ourselves. Is just straight to the grind of taking care of your kids or getting ready for your job or whatever it is. But like you said, like that distraction continues to separate us from what your body's telling you to do, or we're telling you that it needs, and then we don't listen. And then by the time we do listen, it's like way over the top, and we end up overcompensating, right? Like going for the day full of chocolate, or like we go for the ice cream late at night because we've been neglecting our body's signals all day of like, hey, I'm hungry. Hey, I'm low on this. Hit me up. And then you get so late at night, you're already tired. You're like, oh, I'm just gonna go for the quick fix, and I'm gonna go ice cream because it feels good. When really it's just been like building and building and building and building. Same goes for, not honoring your body and listening to it over the course of a day or a week. You keep plowing through workouts and you're tired and your legs are still, it's going to catch up with you. And you're going to pay the price for a week, not for a day, versus cutting a ride short or going long. Or if you wake up incredible, like I talked about, you just go for it or go full send. It's like, you don't want to do it every day, but that's the thing. If you're listening to your body, you're not going to do it every day because you're not going to feel like doing it every day. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, there's a lot of magic can happen right now. And I think if you want some freedom to rewire your brain, do it now, because come May or June, you can still do it, right? But it's just going to be harder, I think, to detach from the proximity of your race and what needs to be done to do it correctly.
Yeah, I really love that, man. Yeah, because that's really kind of what it is. Some days I wake up and I'm like, all right, all in, podium. This is what I'm doing. The next day I'll wake up and I'm like, I don't even really want to race. It's like, what? Where does that come from? So it's
we are one and the same, man. It's
talk about extremes, man.
Yeah, I go through 19 race calendars every 24-hour period.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, because that's just, to me, is it really when I step back from it, to me it's just that external. Like, I need like some kind of jack me up right now, and it's not coming from an authentic place, man. And that's what bothers me. It's like I just. One of the things I've been doing for a while now, and it's really, you mentioned the coffee or the wake up and you want distraction or whatever. One thing I've been doing is like I get up and before I do anything, I just sit down with a notepad and just write for 3 pages of freehand. I've been back on that kind of groove. And what it does is like sometimes my first sentence will be, man, I am distracted. I'd really rather be on my phone, or I'd rather, and I just write that shit out, and it just kind of like helps you ground yourself, or ground, for me anyway, it kind of helps me ground my day a little bit more. And it's just, to me, that's kind of exciting because you're not reacting that way. You're letting it, like, you're exactly what you're saying. It's kind of a step towards this rewiring of the brain. But it's such a long, it's like you have to almost invest in it and trust the slow burn, because, it doesn't always work perfectly, but a lot of times it gives me a sense of like, all right, I'm a little more grounded today. I feel stable about this. And then I can kind of start making decisions after I air all that confusion out on paper. And it's really been a interesting, I used to do it all the time, and I go in and out of it. And it's just sort of like, okay. And I do think that it's the same with triathlon training. It's sort of like you buy in, just indefinitely almost, whether or not it works out perfectly today, or you have a bad workout, or you have a shitty workout or a good one. It's like, all right, well, I'm not going to just like judge everything based on what just happened. I'm just going to continue to trust the process. And it does go back to that. We had that podcast called Slow Burn, and it's just really kind of not getting too far one way or the other with any thought process, and, you know, just staying in that middle. Like I was saying, that 51%, just kind of keep it right on the right side of the track.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the thing is like everyone has those feelings. But
I would imagine. I don't know.
I mean, everyone does, whether they want to admit it or not. I mean, you know, maybe not the robots don't, the people that are, you know, got their lives together, but it's just like recognizing that that's a fleeting thought, and it might come from your ego, might come from your insecurity, might come from your need to, you know, to have fulfillment, you know, for the moment. But it's still, I mean, that's honestly, I'd say that's why 30% of people sign up for races. They need something that day, right? And the click gives it to them. It's just one of those like probably fiscally irresponsible clicks. You're better off going to Krispy Kreme, getting 2 chocolate glaze when the hot light's on. But no, it's just recognize it, and then recognize that, hey, this is maybe this isn't for the right reason, maybe it is. And if I'm asking for this, like, what am I really searching for? Because, you know, triathlon isn't going to fix it. You gotta take care of yourself first. And you know I had this conversation with an athlete earlier this week. I was like, hey, listen, like something isn't right. You know, you seem pretty down the last few weeks. You're irritable, you're negative, you're down, you know, you're extra tired. I was like, this isn't a triathlon thing. Like, this is a life thing, you know? So you're either like depressed or you're anxious, or life isn't going how it is. Like, instead of making extra time to train, like, let's make some extra time to figure out why we're feeling this way, and then address it, whether it's, you know, talking to a therapist, or looking at a new job, or like, you know, going out and hanging out with different people, and, you know, and having some social interaction, because that's the stuff that you really need to do. But most people like revert back and, oh, I'll just, you know, go out and train because I can do a 60-minute ride, and that's better for me, but that'll make me a better athlete, a better person, and at least I'm not sitting on my ass. But yeah, it's true, you're not sitting on your ass, but maybe you need to be doing something else. Maybe you could be going out to dinner with friends you haven't talked to, and connecting and getting some, you know, actual communication with a human, versus staring at a virtual screen and with people, you know, in graphicked out spandex sending you messages from China. Just my 2 cents. Anyway, we'll before we ruin this Q&A podcast and definitely don't deliver to the people. Paul Carlson, did I make a mistake signing up for a 50K in April and then Chatty 70.3 in May? The trail 50K, which isn't overly technical, is 5 weeks before the 70.3. I figured it'll be a training run. It will probably be better on the legs than a road marathon. But how do you best train for both? Well, first of all, a road marathon would also be a stupid idea, Paul. Like, there's no need to be doing a full freaking marathon on the road 5 weeks out from a 70.3. And then he says, the 70.3 is my A race for the season. The earliest A race has ever been for me. I finished Florida last month with a decent time and feel recovered. Bike is usually my strength, but I actually pace but in the swim. My run was slow, mostly because I didn't run for a few weeks after straining my right hamstring. Okay, Paul. So you didn't run a lot before Florida, and you strained your hamstring, but we're doing a 50K trail in April. You know, I got, you know, if we're doing like the Seinfeld airing of grievances, I got a lot of problems with you people. And I mean, is it a mistake? I'm not going to call it a mistake. Is it ideal? Maybe not. You know, could it be a great day if you can really take it easy? It could be a great strength day. I mean, honestly, like, if it's because you're still a lot of ways out. Is it going to help your speed out? No. You know, and again, it's like, if you're slower in running, you know, why am I training for a 50K on the trail? I'd be focusing on like a half marathon or a 10K. But still, like, it's your journey. If you're excited about it, then do it. If it's on a Saturday, which would be ideal, is, you know, you go do it on a Saturday and you make sure it's like zone 1, zone 2, and you have to walk, you put a heart rate cap on it, you know, and then the next day you just like a long, easy ride to spin the legs out, and you should be back to normal. I mean, that's the thing about 50Ks is, right, is like they are so much easier on like your skeletal structure than a road marathon. But again, a road marathon would be a terrible idea. But just, yeah, take it easy and enjoy it, and, you know, don't go guns blazing. If Chatty is really your A race, then don't treat the 50K like a long run with friends, you know, and just be smart about it. Again, is it going to ruin your build? No. It's just, but is it super? But I would have targeted a half marathon instead, but that's just me. But that would get me my juices flowing. But if you don't want to, then you go 50K, then just take it easy, man. It's definitely not I definitely wouldn't call it a mistake. The only time it'll be a mistake is if you fail to execute that plan correctly and go too hard.
Yeah, man, that's good. My first thought was like run camp and how sometimes, that's like crazy elevation and how, we've done marathons there, like unprepared and things of that nature. And actually feel pretty good. I do always think about this. Like at run camp, we eat so much, we're fueling so much that I think that maybe is a really good reason why we feel good. It's like, so I was going to say, make sure you're, not burning to the core. You know what I mean? Like just make sure you're fueling well leading in and feeling well coming in it and coming out of it. And like you said, and I would definitely, I don't know, you said it wasn't technical, I think, but I don't know if that means that there is hills, but I certainly would just probably hike, as much as you can and just not blast yourself, like you're saying, It could be I feel pretty good usually after run camp a few days later. So yeah, I could see how that wouldn't destroy you if you played it smart, Yeah,
and just watch your step, okay? Like, when it's turn ankle on a route. I'm not even sure we can answer this one. I don't think Scott knows this very well. Scott Womack, I plan on doing an international full Ironman for my 65th birthday, flying from Florida. This would be my 5th Ironman, and I always drove to a destination. You're speaking my love language right here. So this will be exciting. What bike box should I consider, or should I rent a bike? What about jet lag? How many days should I get to the race prior? Do you even know us? Because we are the drive to the destination kings, terrified of flying. No, thank you. Having said that, I think renting a bike, legit, like from a stress standpoint, before the race, definitely lowers the stress. Bike box, Allen is great, I know, but then at the race, I see like a huge downer in renting a bike because it's never going to be the same as what you've been training on, and that's might not impact the bike, but it'll probably impact the run. Jet lag, unfamiliar. This is like the foreign language to me. I don't even know what you're talking about with jet lag. It sounds like a dance move.
It's got to be an analogy. Maybe it's like your cheesecake overload or something.
Exactly right. Yeah. How many days should I get there prior to the race? I don't know. You're 65. You're probably retired. 2 weeks. That sounds pretty solid. And then what other things should I think about? I honestly, like, the only thing I would think about is asking two guests or two podcast hosts that fly a lot, because we are not those guys. We have a lot of athletes that fly and travel, and I will tell you, like, they will say it's the most stressful thing you could possibly do. And most of them say, I will think twice next time I sign up for an international race because it was so stressful that it almost made it not worth it. Having said that, I know that might be like Debbie Downer for the day. But
happy birthday, buddy.
That's right. Happy birthday, Scott. I mean, he's only 63 still. You still got 2 years to change your mind, right?
Yeah.
We just went from him doing Copenhagen or Cervea, Italy. We just convinced him to do Ironman Florida, which is, close to home or something like that. But yeah, sorry, bro. We can't help you out on that. But best of luck to you, and we're happy to sign your passport when you're done.
Yeah.
That's all I
Know.
got.
I feel guilty suffocating my bike in a box anyway, put it in the lower level of a plane. That's just no way to treat your bike.
You can't do that. Exactly. Chris Bonds.
It'll never show up.
Yeah, or you might never get it back.
Exactly.
Chris Bonds. Tough question, but one I'd love to hear your opinion on. I'm a 53-year-old triathlete who didn't start training until I was 50 after losing 152 pounds. I was a high school athlete with a very thin frame, which I now have back again. I love being able to set PRs on a regular basis when so many of my peers will never again see the times they had 20 or 30 years ago. Here's the question. How long do you think I can reasonably expect to see improvements before father time starts to catch up with me? Currently 135 pace for 100 free. FTP 220, 5K 2350. So I'm not super fast in any discipline. Training for my second full, and I've done 2 70.3s. You mean you got 3 or 4 years in you, probably.
How old is he?
He's 53. I mean, I think you got to at least 57. I mean, hell, if you wanted it, you can get a PR still, and I don't think you got plenty of time. You definitely don't rush it. You got plenty of time. I mean, especially, if you're getting back after losing so much weight. I mean, it's 3 years post that huge weight loss. But yeah, I mean, I would, I would say you got plenty of time. Now, what I wouldn't do would just be doing Ironmans every year. I would stick to doing some, shorter events, making sure you're staying strong. And again, like the biggest thing I found, and I still find myself here, honestly, on occasion from when I used to be, overweight is, like you talked about at run camp, make sure you're not obsessed about the way you look and instead be more concerned about the way you perform. And that gets a lot of triathletes in trouble and a lot of runners in trouble. I think we have a few of our first podcasts about this is that, especially with runners, they're more concerned about looking like a runner, quote unquote, right, than fueling and getting enough protein and doing enough strength training to be a great runner. And triathletes are the same way. Like they're more worried about looking thin and frail and like if you sneezed, you blow them over in the wind. But yet they, continuously get stress fractures or, like are chronic fatigue and are sick all the time. And you're like, hello, like maybe eat a sandwich or eat protein and, stop snorting spinach 24/7 and like expand your diet. That's what gets most people in trouble. So that honestly, that would be my biggest, warning or red flag, or like maybe not red flag, like caution for you as a person who's aging, one, and also like has gone through weight loss. You're always going to be looking at yourself in the mirror, probably picturing that heavier set, athlete, and afraid to go back there. But, don't skip on the strength training. Don't look at the scale, fuel yourself to perform. Don't fuel yourself to starve and look a certain way or be at a certain way. That'd be my biggest thing. And if you can do that and you can keep getting stronger and keep the intensity in, then yeah, you probably got 3 to 5 years. And even then, who am I to say? You can give yourself a decade, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of already lived this, so
yeah,
I have some, just like you said, man. I still feel like my best time is in me, at least at the full distance. I do think that obviously, I don't know, the mistakes I think I've made, and I don't even want to say mistakes, but like if you're serious about like continuing to get better, and like I always kind of say is that, staying the same is kind of like getting faster at a certain point. Mm-hmm. But for me, it was just kind of like I would go back and listen to the beginning of this podcast actually, and think that through and rewire yourself a little bit, because that external drive for those numbers isn't really what made me tick. But I tried to keep using it, so I would take a lot of time off maybe over the winter and things like that. And the inconsistency is, I think, what sort of took me off of, the pedestal of my desires. And then I would just kind of crank it around and think like, okay, if I turn this up right now and just put you can get it done, which is what's been happening. But I think it's just a long-term thing. And like you're saying, just make sure you're paying attention to your body along the way, because I don't want to say, it gets frail by not using it. So if you can consistently stay in the game, I think you'll be right there, and you might have moments and PRs and stuff like that. As we know, different days, different courses, all these kind of things come into play. So it's like, how do you feel? And just like, these sort of like paces and things of that nature, I think they're an indicator of sorts, but like, we talk about, whatever, I think you said 135 in the pool, and that's kind of where I could probably get in a pool right now. But when I get in open water, I'm more like a 2-minute guy. So do you have that, ability to hold on and just be smart and flow with the day? And there's just so many factors, I think. But I think, yeah, I mean, I don't think you're going to see remarkable PRs, but I think they're always kind of sitting around there if you stay in the game and and just hit the right day and hit the right stride at certain points in your training and stuff like that. I mean, I wouldn't, I
yeah. And don't
this
travel
whole life, man, has been so, like I always just think back to when I was a kid and my grandfather was my age. I mean, he literally, it's like, what? He couldn't even hardly walk to the car, let alone do an Ironman, so it's like, I just think so many things have changed, and I just try to always impose or impart my thought on the idea that, yeah, you can just keep getting older and stay in the game. And it really is, it's quite remarkable. I mean, we're seeing 80-year-olds finish Ironman now. So, I mean, I don't know, to me, again, the PR and that type of thing, I'm trying to really, like you're saying, rewire my brain on all that stuff, because it really isn't about that. It's really about feeling good and strong and being alive and vibrant for life as you get older.
Yeah, and it goes back to, I don't think we talked about it on air. We talked about it before we went live that day, talking about Gordon Burn. He was like, the best way to get faster as you get older is keep being able to run. Mm-hmm. Because most people run too hard too often. Like, I'm getting too old. I can only run 2 or 3 days a week. I'm like, that's just not true. You're just running too hard too often. Like, just accumulate, the mileage and get it done. So yeah, don't put a limit on yourself. And again, like the worst thing you can do for yourself is to think that you've only got a finite time left to hit those PRs, because that's going to lead to nothing but mistakes, chasing, and disappointment. All right, last one for the day from Jeffrey Payton. Would love to hear how you guys mix up your training and throw in more creative approaches this time of year. Mike Turali and his ice running, Robbie's High Rocks adventures, all the ways you like to move and be strong and have fun this time of year. One of the things that I've done that I've actually really enjoyed is hopping on the trainer and riding for 30 or 45 minutes easy. And then, because honestly, this time of year, the first thing to go on the trainer is my ass, not my legs. And so I'll do 30 or 40 minutes of easy riding, and then do 10 or 15 minutes of rowing, and then 10 or 15 minutes on the skier, and then get back on the bike and do the same thing again until I don't want to do it anymore. And is it as good as getting in a 2.5 hour straight ride? No, but it keeps my attention span, changes things up a little bit, and I'm still getting a good workout in, and it's still keeping me aerobic. It's just a little bit of a change of pace. And I think it's very underrated, things you can do that are like that. And then another thing that I've been doing and actually programmed for a few athletes is, because a lot of athletes have they don't have problem making time. They have problem allocating their time to do strength training, is to do something warm up 20 minutes on the bike, do 4 times 6-minute big gear, in zone 3 on 3 minutes rest. And then immediately after the main set, get off the bike, take off your bike shoes, and do 40 lunges, 40 air squats. And then if you have a box, do box step ups, and then get back on the bike for a 20 or 30 minute cool down. It's not just a bike workout. It's just a little bit of both. And I think I've also been told that it's very difficult. But I think it's a great way to just continue to build durability. There's no science behind it. I'm kind of interested in how it can, if you're doing the big gear works, because there's a lot of science that says but it's best to combine strength training with, big gear work to get the full benefit of it. And I'm it kind of, and most people hate the cool down. I'm one of them, but it's do the main set, immediately get off the bike, do 40 lunges, so 20 each side, right into maybe 40 air squats, and then 20 box step ups. And if you're feeling saucy, go back around and do it again for I think I called it a muscular endurance finisher for and you just did 4 rounds of that every 4 minutes. Then get back on the bike for a 10 or 15 minute spin out, and now you got your strength training done, now you got your big gear work done, and you got your bike done. As little things like that, I find interesting. I don't think anyone else does those, but I think stuff like that, one, has a lot of merit in just building durability. And again, we talk a lot about the over obsession with specificity all year round, or just in general. And I think stuff like that has a place, and I find it fun and interesting. And just a good way to change it up, whether it's year round or just for right now.
Yeah, I would echo that. I've actually, I pretty much train for Ironman with a similar philosophy of kind of almost creating stations or something, where I'll ride for, literally sometimes just cause I don't know if I've been doing it for so long or whatever, but I would get on the bike for 10 minutes and then get off and do push-ups for a minute and then get back on. Or one of my favorite things to do right now is I've been really for almost a year or so doing incline treadmill work. And a lot of times it's just walking, and I'll just pyramid up and come back down. But a lot of times I'll go 5 minutes at one level and then take a minute and do push-ups or some type of other mobility work on the ground, or I'll get on a hanging bar or do stuff like that for a minute, and then I'll get back on. And I'll just do that every 5 minutes. I'll take a break, or every 4 minutes technically, and then do a minute of something else, and then just walk it all the way up to the 15. And then come back down a little. When I come back down, I'll always speed it up 0.1 every level. So, but stuff like that. And sometimes I'll run, like if I'm in the middle, I might just, run for 4 minutes here and there. I'm just doing these kind of things like that because, like you're saying, it makes me feel good. And for now, that's really the key driver, rather than hammering out like a whole, hour and a half on an aerobic ride or something like that. I've been getting pretty consistent, about 45 to an hour on the bike, just taking it easy. But sometimes I'll get in a mood where I want to do 30-second, bursts and do that, 30, 30, 30, 30. Mix it up like that, feel it out. But I like a lot of times on a treadmill, I walk with dumbbells and, just kind of, mess around with those while I'm walking, whatever, it's like sort of a, well-rounded kind of like make your body feel good kind of mood.
And the thing is, if it's going to make you do that for longer, it's better.
And again, I look forward to it. You know what I mean? Like I was saying earlier, sometimes I go a little longer because it's like, all right, this feels good. I'm just going to take it in.
Yeah. Like I was thinking the other day, I was like, man, at some point in the next few weeks, I'm going to try like 4 hours of 40-20.
Do it.
I want to ride for 40 minutes and just go immediately on the treadmill and run super easy for 20 and get right back on the bike. And again, like here's the thing about
Dave
specificity.
Scott,
It's like,
or Mark Allen.
Yeah, that's right. It's right. Daniel Hodges special, is, like when you get done with that, what's your body going to tell you? Oh, I've got to, take my cycling department and allocate these 40 minutes here. And then technically I got this in my run notes. I'm like, oh, you got 4 hours of aerobic work. I got better today, versus, God, I can't stand being on the trainer for an hour and a half straight. And you only do an hour and a half. Well, if you change it up and you're not so terrified of being so unspecific and you're getting in more, like that's the ticket. Is to being able, it's finding ways to do more that isn't, you can call it cross training if you want, and it's like, oh, how do I can stop my, how am I going to track the data? I'm like, no, just like start your watch and know you went for 4 hours in aerobic work and you got it done. Like you're going to be so much fitter after doing that. Same thing with like the stuff you talked about, leading with science. Like there's so many things out there that we can do. I think that, you might fly in the face of specificity and like not specifically triathlon, people might laugh at you. Like if you told your buddies that you were going to do your main set, and you're like, hey, now I got to get off and do lunges and air squats and box jumps and, maybe 20 burpees. You'd be like, what are you doing? And then you get back on a cool day and be like, yeah, but you got it all done. And I guarantee you'll be stronger. Might be a little bit of interference here and there, but like who cares? If it makes you excited and you do it, I say do it. Like we do way too much the same stuff all the time and are so terrified to like think outside the box because of how it might look or what it might not do that we end up doing very little, and then we wonder why we like can't keep our attention span. And it's like just have a little freedom. But yeah, Jeff Payton, that's our go out and do some of these and then let us know.
Ice running.
How it goes.
I'll be doing that. But the thing I like about what we just said is that when it comes around to like May or something like that, I've always proven to myself that I can sort of turn the switch and just kind of lock into specific. It just seems like easier. All of a sudden I'm just going to be riding a little longer and running longer and swimming in the lake, for a long time. But right now, like the thought of that just like really drains me. So, getting to a place where you're just feeling good. I'd like to see you, instead of 4 hours, I'd like to see you do that for 8 hours. But I know you will someday now that it's just out there.
Now it's out there. I mean, now it's out there. Maybe
I can't believe what I did last night. But
yeah, exactly. That's right.
Yeah, it's just, it is. It's sort of like, wow. there's a lot of different things you can do. I mean, just
and
open your Facebook page. There's 8,000 mobility experts on there just serving ads to you right now. That's like, I don't even know where to start with this. That's why I always try to simplify down to about 8 things that I do all the time.
Yeah. And I mean, and it fits perfectly into like where we say, you know, if you're train like an athlete, train like an endurance athlete, then train like a triathlete. You know, right now I just be training like an athlete. You know, like we can close it out in here in a minute, but like I commented on one of my athletes. He was like, "Hey, my pool's closed. He might, add in a few rows." And I looked at her Monday. She rode for an hour. And I was like, "Did you make it to Hawaii?" And she was like, "Aloha." And I was like, "But why would I care that they did that?" I mean, rowing is such great cross training. And if you like look at any like not profession, but like Olympic style rowing program or like high collegiate rowers, like they do a lot of row bike bricks. They'll row bike because it's a great crossover. And the one thing I also like about rowing is it's like a calming rhythm. Like it's just like it's almost like meditating. Like cause you just get your stroke down, but it's like, yeah, so if it feels good, do it. It's better because here's the thing, it's better than doing nothing. And I think that's the trap a lot of triathletes, quote unquote, fall into. Consider yourself an endurance athlete or just an athlete before you consider yourself a triathlete, because then you'll question and want to just sit instead of doing anything that's not just swim, just bike, or just run. And I think that's a huge, like that prevents way more in the performance area than it does. It creates a lot of stagnation, a lot of staleness, a lot of, burnout. And again, like I said, like if you can't do those three, then most of them do nothing. But there's always an option to do something else. You just have to know that it's good for you, even though you can't put it in the swim, bike, run bucket.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's all we got for today. As always, we love you guys and we appreciate you. We'll try to catch up on our aviation and flight info for the next podcast in case we get any more international travel. Pre-chat questions. But we love you guys and we appreciate you. Go to our website, c26triathlon.com. And there's our one-stop shop for all things coaching, camps, and community. If you are looking for advice or coaching or training for 2026, check out our coaches tab, find the coach that's right for you, or we'll help you find one. If you need anything from Mike, he is available. Mike at c26triathlon.com. For anything from me specifically, Robbie at c26triathlon.com.
All right, man. Well, have a great weekend. And
yeah, you too, man.
Fouls are out, huh?
Yeah, it's all about National Signing Day now. That's where we are.
That is man.
Hey, it is what it is.
It is what it is. It is what it is. You got high school running backs asking for $3 million.
Yeah, right.
It's just wild.
Yeah, we're in the wrong sport.
Maybe our time is coming. Maybe there'll be aging triathletes will be able to sign for
NIL deals.
NIL deals.
I'm transferring from. I just signed the new deal. I'm transferring from Team Zoot to Team Moana with a $45 NIL deal, and I'm signing it today. I had some other offers from Wadi Inc. and from Triathlon, but they weren't nearly as lucrative. And so, yeah, I'm taking my talents over for a $45 transaction fee, which is basically not enough to even cover the processing fee for an Ironman. But that's us. That's us triathletes.
Yeah. You can be one of our NIL athletes. Just go to our store and buy something, and I'll give you $10.
Exactly.
I'll pay you $10.
Sign in a heartbeat, baby. That's right.
Actually, no. I'll just use C26 Xmas as a 15% discount, and you're in.
Yeah, there you go. NIL approved. No limits.
All right. Well, that's a good way to end it. All right. Have a great weekend.
Later, dude.
See you, man.
You too, man.